Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where today's show is Authentic Achievements, a show designed to share inspiring stories and people's lived experience to help anybody else who's facing similar challenges to have some opportunities to see how they might find a way through. And today I am delighted to be joined by the fabulous Laura Ahern, who's a medium, intuitive and clairvoyant. Known as the Energy Linguist, she helps individuals decode the hidden messages in their life experiences and unlock their highest potential. After a personal tragedy that awakened her spiritual gifts, Laura's dedicated her life to guiding others in integrating their unique abilities into practical everyday wisdom. Founder of Ascension Healing and the creator of the True Method, Laura is the author of The True Calling, a book designed to help people transform confusion into clarity and embrace their unique calling with confidence and purpose. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Laura to join us on the stage. Laura, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm so delighted to be here today.
Oh, I'm so excited to have our conversation. And I know we always get so stuck in. So I thought this time I'd read about you before I put you on because it will allow us to have that flow better. But I mean, you've had such an amazing journey. Can you share that with us in a little bit more detail, please?
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting is I find that many of us, when we're open to what life really hands us, we have this opportunity to kind of experience many lifetimes within a lifetime, right? Many versions of ourselves within a lifetime. And for me, that is very much what has happened, because I'm right now, as we are recording this, I'm 40 years old and I am truly living life to this incredible heights of this highest potential, serving others in ways that's truly life-changing. But 11 years ago, that was not the case. So my story was quite unexpected. I was widowed at 29 years old. And when I say unexpected, I had married my best friend, Josh, at the time. We were together about 5 years prior to being married. And it was only 4.5 months after we were married that he had a seizure out of the blue. Now, that was a shock. I mean, I had never witnessed a seizure before. It was terrifying. I quite frankly didn't know what was happening, but I called 911 and we got him to the hospital. And after the scans, what they ended up telling us was that he had a brain tumor. And after he underwent surgery for the biopsy, they gave him a prognosis of 9 months to live. And as you can imagine, everything, all of my dreams, my best friend, my love, everything I had invested in and everything that was a part of not just my joy, but my identity, it was being lost right in that moment. There was this choice to be made about whether or not I kind of cave under the victimization and the hardship of that pressure or rise to truly challenging, to move beyond it. And in leaning into God and our faith and trusting that everything was going according to really a higher plan, both Josh and I experienced really the best time of our life together after that diagnosis. It really put our lives into perspective of what mattered, what was worth investing our energy in, and what didn't. And he did live beyond the 9 months, but not much. He lived for 14 months. So I was widowed at 29 years old and left with, just devastation on all levels, if you can imagine, financial, emotional, everything in my world really seemed to portray that I was forsaken and I was worthless and that life was just going to be unbearable. And it was through a lot of different spiritual experiences that started occurring. Now, understand, at the time, I was actually in college for my psychology degree because so I do have a psychology degree. I love our neurowiring, our brains. There's this really practical way in which I understand and see our human potential. And so after Josh's passing, this opening of these spiritual gifts and these spiritual nudges, I call them nudges, but they were like kicks, really hard kicks in the butt to move forward. They started happening. And what happened, and this is the way I describe it often, is that the grief had kind of put me in such a state of shock, trying to get my bearings, right? This experience of death at such a young age, the death of someone who's so vital, so lively and humorous and just truly a force of his own, really put into perspective this concept of life and death. And I do believe it kind of numbed a lot of my intellectual resources, just that cloud and that heaviness, the denseness of grief, and who am I? What is my life really hold? And that, I do believe, allowed a lot of this innate ability that was already within me, that I do believe is within all of us because we are spiritual beings, that innate capacity to tune into this infinite intelligence and this divine information to come online. And so my journey was quite unexpected. And what I do now is kind of integrating both these aspects of my foundations in psychology with this clairvoyant gift I have of channeling divine wisdom and insight to help people who are just really seeking fulfillment in their life, those people that know there is deeper meaning to life, that they're not suffering for no reason, right? That there is a reason that they've experienced their pain or they've met their hardship and that they want to break out of that place. And I help them to really discover this success in their life, this fulfillment in their life. And I can do that actually through helping to teach them a lot of what I learned, which is how to decode our system's kind of natural wisdom, this connection we do have to this higher purpose and potential, so that they can start to not just feel whole within themselves and come into a place of healing for themselves, but start to contribute to others, to have a meaningful impact, to make a difference without self-sacrificing, without feeling like we are unworthy or that we're not enough. And so it's been a quite miraculous journey to getting where I am today with many, many layers.
Well, I mean, your story, every time you tell it, it just blows me away. I can't begin to imagine what it must have felt like and what you must have gone through in losing Josh. And losing him so young, and I can only begin to imagine how utterly devastating on all levels that must have been. But the fact that you were able to utilize that to actually become the springboard to move forward, to not make that the legacy, to make the legacy being what you and Josh were able to learn together as a result of that experience, to be able to have a positive impact on people is just remarkable. You should be so proud of the fact that you've done that, and you've chosen now to have a profession that is in helping other people overcome their insurmountable. Because I think, and you said it so eloquently as you were bringing the story to life, we all have our own insurmountable, and our insurmountable may look very different to somebody else's insurmountable, but once we understand it, then actually we can find ways to get over it, can't we? And find our reconnection to our higher self.
Yeah, it truly, and there's so much wisdom in everything you said. Yes, I absolutely kind of innately recognized that if I was to have stopped living and used his death as an excuse not to move forward, that it would have been a great disrespect to him, to somebody who would have given anything to have been still living this life. And I also wanted to honor him by mirroring the type of courage that he showed me through his diagnosis. And so I remember his funeral and getting up, and I did the readings at his funeral, and everybody told me that it was not a good idea and that I shouldn't do it. Just about everybody. And I thought, you know what, though, this is my opportunity to share the courage he showed me, the courage I got to witness within him, to give that courage to everybody else who had lost him. And so this innate capacity and desire to serve people and help people, even in my biggest time of needs, it kind of just awakened within me. And I do believe it's really interesting because after just the willingness to lean into faith, even when we don't know what's next, but we know something's calling us, right? To move in the direction and to believe in the highest good for ourselves is truly invaluable. It's brought me to a place in my life where so I have a framework that I've created, and it is it was divinely channeled, and it's this concept of what I call the meaning matrix. And a lot of what I teach my students on through this framework is that there is this truth beyond our stories. There is this truth beyond our pain. That really is beneath the surface of the things that we feel like are in control of our life. And when we tune into this meaning matrix and we start to perceive kind of that energetic vibration, that connectivity to all things, we start to understand that we are very much a conscious creator who is determining what our experiences mean for us. And when we can start to pull off the pain and pull off the story and pull off our identity with the things we've gone through, we really do have this infinite capacity to interpret what's happening to us in an empowering way, so that we can not just rise above it, yes, rise above it, become wiser on account of it, but also start to help others to do so. It's that ripple effect in the water. And so I did, in fact, teach a lesson to one of my groups this week, and it was on our determined worth and what are we concluding about ourselves through the things that we have experienced pain from. And that's such an important thing, is to understand that the person who gets to decide what our challenges mean about us is us.
I love that. It's so true, because I think, we sometimes can very much be looking outward for what we think it means, when actually we have to look inward, don't we? It's like what our pain meant, what it taught us, what it gave us as a gift. Was a gift for us, and for us to interpret. And I think learning that can be hard, but learning it can also be that, the unlocker, can't it? It reminds me of that quote, other people's opinion is none of your business.
Yes.
And yet we give away all of the power. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you found that the same. I'm definitely guilty. Over the years of not even letting people have another say, but doing the say for them. Or they'll think this, they'll think that, they'll think the other. Well, I haven't asked them what they think. So how do I know that that's what they think? And actually, that's just what I think is the worst thing that I could think of. What's the worst place that this could go? Or people would think I was too full of myself, or there was something wrong with me, or there was this, or was that. Actually, that's what I think. I'm just pretending it's what somebody else thinks. And once
it's our story. Yeah, it is.
Once I realized that and was able to better pick that up and own it, you could go, okay, stop blaming other people for the thoughts you're having about yourself, and own the fact that is what you think about yourself in the moment. And therefore, if that's what you think about yourself in the moment, how do you change that thinking? How do you find compassion for yourself? but I should say I'm a lot older than you. I mean, I'm 51, and I probably found that breakthrough in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes, but you found it in this lifetime. A lot of people don't find it in this lifetime. It's why you're doing what you do. It's why I'm doing what I do, so that we can help illuminate the path, so that we kind of condense time for people, so that they
Right.
don't take as long as we took to
Yeah.
get.
It's so true, isn't it? So if our listeners or viewers watching right now, and they're stuck in that place of feeling only the pain right now, feeling only the loss, I know some of my points, almost the destitution of
Yes.
I don't quite know I don't know where to go from this. How can they start to find their path back to themselves?
What's interesting about this question is that it seems kind of counterintuitive into the way that we're taught to learn, the way that we're taught to interact with the world. And in fact, you kind of laid it out in everything you were just saying, right? About the way we learn and the way that we perceive the external world and allow that world to kind of influence us, our perception, our interpretation of that world to influence us. And so, if you don't mind me stepping back into that for a minute, it will help support this answer, which is this understanding that we have been taught, the frameworks we're taught in this world are, they're telling us how to interpret information, right? And the reason that my framework of the meaning matrix is very different is because it's the opposite. Instead of letting that physical tell us about ourselves and what's happening within us, this framework is going within our own innate wisdom to truly decide within ourselves what is available to us. There were times truly within my journey where I did not want to move forward. So I understand that struggle that you're asking, right? What about people that are just in that place? And number one, definitely feel what you're feeling. We don't want to repress it. When we repress it and we don't feel the pain and even admit how hard it is for ourselves, what happens is that we're then trying to function in our lives with a lot of toxicity existing within our system. So it's just that, like, repressing and pressing it down creates a lot of dysregulated energy. And it's still there, even if we got our fingers in our ears and we're like, la, 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 I feel better, right? So it's not positive self-talk isn't enough. Being happy or smiling isn't enough. It is in the actual processing and the facing and the seeing it and feeling what you feel, and then being willing to get curious about you, not about this story about why I'm forsaken, why I'm worthless, why these things made me feel this way, but truly get curious about who you are within that experience, right? Why does it hurt in the way it does? In fact, my story would seem that the hardest part was that I lost an incredible man, right? And I giggle because, like, he's actually not quite lost. Because of my ability to rise above and connect with this infinite intelligence, he actually called me out on something a day or two ago. It's the first I hadn't heard him this loudly in a long time, but it was almost comical, and it was him in this, like, pure energetic form. But truly, when we go back and we look at our experiences and the things that we feel we've lost, right? And so one would think that the biggest loss I experienced was of my best friend. And that actually wasn't the worst part of it. It would seem it should have been. It would seem it would have been enough, but for many of our listeners and for even you, you probably experienced the saying, right? When it rains, it pours, where it's like it seems compiled. It seems like everything's working against us. It seems like things are just getting layered. And it very, very, very much was for me. I had some really atrocious things happen through people who claimed that they would care for me and love me and we would heal together. And then just this obnoxious, almost taking from me. Everything challenged the way that I saw myself, I saw my worth, and even felt capable of moving forward. I did feel quite destitute. But that even wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was the moment in which I realized that I had so much internal self-judgment and rejection and regret over things that I could not undo, right? I was the one, and it's devastating, that had to sign the DNR to unhook my husband from life support. There's so many things that were so atrociously painful through that experience that how could you not run over them in your mind? And a lot of the reason I want everyone to understand that we do this is because pain is unacceptable to us in a lot of ways, right? We are evolutionarily wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And when we experience painful things, especially the loss of someone we love, or the loss of a dream, or the loss of there's certain levels of our experiences of loss that are just unacceptable. And so in an attempt to kind of not accept them, our mind goes through this, it's like this ego mind goes through this process of, how could I have avoided that? How could I have not been in this position? And we start to pressurize and put all of this judgment and this pain and self-rejection on ourselves, on why we're to blame. We're not worthy. This is our fault. Things that truly, there was nothing. I did what I could have done. And I know that now. But when don't want to accept that reality, we do really harmful things within ourselves. And so to answer that question, what can we do when we're in this state of suffering? It is to go within ourselves and start to look, because the scariest moment I had after he passed was actually this recognition that if I did not learn to love myself unconditionally, and I don't mean in spite of the things, I actually mean because of the things, to understand that if something caused me pain, that it's because I'm not resonant with that being within that dynamic or that experience is not on my highest path. It's not my highest potential. This recognition that our pain is the messenger to tell us that you don't belong here. And maybe once you did, but you don't belong there anymore, right? So it's this understanding that looking within and really starting to embrace that if you are feeling regret and pain over the things you've experienced, it's because you are not of it. And once you start to be able to love yourself because of what you're learning about yourself, you really do start to set yourself free. In fact, I did a dive with my students this week on the Latin root of the word experience. And what's interesting about that is it's that same essence of the word experiment, right? Which actually is like to test out, to try. And so often we look at our experiences of, oh, I experienced pain. I must have been wrong. There must be something wrong with me. And that's not the case. We're actually meant to use it kind of like a scientist. What experiences do we have that don't feel good to us? Okay, what can I do differently the next time? And so when we use this curiosity within ourselves, instead of identifying as our pain, we really do have this opportunity to set ourselves free, probably freer than you've ever been before. It is the messenger who's trying to set you back on your path to your highest potential.
Wow. I mean, that so resonates. I often think, and I often share on this show, I've come to learn that everything in life is either a lesson, a blessing, or both. So in those moments where I don't feel blessed, I look for the lesson, and the blessing's right there in what it was meant to teach us, or what it was meant to redirect us to do that. As you said earlier, do that nudge that often doesn't feel like a nudge. Feels like a big swift kick in the pants, but to tell us actually this is not where we're supposed to be, and that there's something more, there's something different. And I love that you use the word curiosity. Curiosity is one of my favorites, and I think it's, I grew up with loads of phrases, including "curiosity killed the cat," and it didn't. When we learn to be curious about self and others, when we stop being wedded to being right, and to going, well, I know, and it's going to be this way, and going, well, I wonder what you can see that I can't see. I wonder what you've experienced that I've not experienced. I wonder what about learning about both of those will allow me to now do with that information. And I loved that you talked about the fact that experience is just like experiment. And actually, when we put it into that context and go, every experience we've got, it's a bit like I love to cook. So that is my if everything's going,
you're constantly experimenting.
I used to be a standing joke at work that if anything was going terribly wrong, I would suddenly come in and start baking for everybody. It was my downtime, it was my connection. But you constantly are experimenting. You're constantly kind of like going, I wonder if this will make it. Like, oh no, we don't do that one again. that one didn't go so well as we'd like. And when we can actually start to look at life in that way, in the piece that's going, okay, it's a bad meal, it's not a bad life. We get to do it again. We get to do a different one and take the parts of it that worked, and take the bits that didn't work, and really get curious about what could I have done differently or instead of, or as well as, because it's not always taking something away. Sometimes it's adding something, even in cooking. But the fact that almost we're kind of taking our life experience and looking at it, in that kind of way, because cooking feeds us, it keeps our bodies alive, but what's inside us, the spirit, is kept alive by our learning, isn't it?
It really is, right? I actually got this message from a divinity. It was really interesting this week. If we're not growing, we're decaying, right? We're actually, and that's on like a cellular level. If we're not growing and expanding, we are dying. And so the curiosity and the exploration and this willingness to be a part of the journey is so important, because what's interesting is that our spirit and our human experience, we are all of one, right? Our physical body and our spirit are not separate. We are of one energy field, but the experiences of them are very different, and the intentions of them are very different. Our physical self wants to survive, right? So it is wired by the fear of just kind of staying safe and wanting to seek the pleasure and really, really avoid the pain. However, our spiritual self is here to experience all things. It's delighting in all of the experiences. And so there's this contrasting desire kind of within us, in which our spirit wants to know and be in and see and learn and gain that wisdom from our experiences, while our human self is like, no, this hurts, this is challenging, I don't want to face it. And so it is in the recognition of kind of like harmonizing by being willing to be in the experience. I think sometimes the hardest part of being in our pain is when we are in this identifying as our mistake, as our pain, as this story of this sense of worthlessness, of not being enough, of being forsaken. But if we can lean into the spiritual wisdom of knowing that we are truly here to learn and gain wisdom from these things, then we start to be able to see it from this more divine perspective. And, I really, really love that you resonate with the word curiosity. I love that you use the phrase curiosity killed the cat, because this is kind of that it's this illustration of what I just described. Because when you look at the phrase curiosity killed the cat, no, it did not, right? It actually, that phrase was meant to scare us, right? Into what it means is curiosity gets you in trouble with me, right? With society. And so what we're really comparing here is this old societal framework, this matrix that we've been plugged into, to kind of be within control and stay within parameters, versus my framework of the meaning matrix, which is this expansion of curiosity during this enlightenment period that we're in, where we're actually starting to embrace the most expansive experience of our spiritual being in this human form. And so it's interesting when you say that, because no, curiosity didn't kill the cat. Curiosity used to get you in trouble because you weren't in line with the things that we were being taught were right.
Yeah.
We weren't being able to be controlled. Curiosity sets you free from the limits. It sets you free from those who they gave us the best they could. And we also know a lot of people who taught us were still in a great deal of suffering. They were still in survival. And it's time for us to really break out of that survival and lean into thriving. And we cannot do that by trying to leverage kind of that human existence of us alone. It has to be with the integration of this deeper wisdom, this this infinite intelligence that we all have connection to. And so I love to kind of like break that down in the way you spoke to it, because curiosity and the willingness to question, and especially question ourselves, question our feelings, right? Because we become so programmed and patterned to just automatically respond, because our bodies are incredible. They're very efficient, right? It's about efficiency. And so a lot of times we feel without even knowing why we felt. And we don't even ask ourselves. We just stay in this state of reaction. And so the curiosity is really such a key to exploring our experiences in a way that we then can be the decider of that interpreter, intentional interpreter of what they mean about us, our life, and our potential.
I love that. I love the intentional element of it, because I think, for me, that's kind of one of the key parts, that is doing things with intent, like, rather than just doing things because you weren't really thinking about it. And curiosity is one of the things. My little girl and I, we've got a family motto that we created about 2.5 years ago, and that was to live a life of passionate curiosity, and to pass our thoughts, words, and deeds through the lenses of: is it kind? Is it honest? And does it add value, both to ourselves and to others? So not just outward, but inward. And it's really helped us change things, because we're being much more intentional then, and trying to be that. If for so many years, and that's why I'm trying really hard with my little girl to not become something she has to overcome later on. It is that actually the one person guaranteed to be with you on the day you're born and the day you die, the only person guaranteed to be with you is you, and therefore you've got to find a way to like that person, because you can't outrun them.
No,
I spent a long time trying. Doesn't work.
Yes, got tired, right? Exhausted.
They're always there.
And I'll tell you, Kim, it's incredible. So in my book, The True Calling, there is a chapter, it's called Fear of Facing Me. And it is that very story that I started to allude to, that moment in time. That is why that moment was the hardest moment, is that it was this recognition that I could not outrun myself. There was no escaping what was ailing me. Nobody outside me could fix it. And that's the truth with all of our challenges, because the way in which we change our experience of the world really does start from changing ourselves within.
And it's having to go in and face yourself, isn't it? Having to go and look at yourself, warts and all, and then say, is this something that, are the bits of it that I don't like? How do I change those?
Right.
And how do I accept myself as I am, warts and all? How do I forgive myself for doing the best I could with the information I had at the time? Yeah, I often think, and I say with my little girl, it's like, we're all learning. Every single one of us is learning every day. We're still making mistakes. We're still evolving. And the point we stop doing that, then we cease to be. But it's not the mistake that defines us. It's what we do with it. It's whether or not we turn that into a lesson that allows us to do something different moving forward, or whether we allow it to be the hair shirt that we wear whilst we beat ourselves repeatedly for the rest of our lives. And it can be hard, can't it, to put down all the stuff that we've carried with us to this point, because it gives, even the things that hurt us, even the things that we say to ourselves about not being worthy or not being good enough or being unlovable or any of these things, bizarrely carry a level of comfort with us because of the fact that they are so well known.
They're familiar, yeah.
So even though they're hurting us, even though it's not helping us, putting them down, that the fear of what might be on the other side is greater than the hope that what might be on the other side is greater. And yet hope and fear are both imagined. Neither one of them exists, and neither exists without the other. So you can't have a left without a right. You can't have an up without a down. So you can't have a fear unless there's also the hope that's equal and opposite, is equally available. And it's then really about which one we choose to believe in, isn't it? Which one we choose to focus on. Would that be fair?
Oh my God, so much so. I love how you break it down. I actually, I was saying something similar this week around if you are in this state of pain or struggle, then what we know is that joy is also available because nothing within our universe is polarized. It's only in our human experience that we seek this polarization of only wanting this happiness or this joy, and we want to just like totally reject all of this stuff. In fact, I had this very interesting thing said to me this week when someone had said, oh, X, Y, and Z happened. I think all of those mistakes, that those things should have never happened. And I thought, well, that's curious. You're assuming that life, certain outcomes of life are a mistake because we're meeting a challenge. It's this idea that we're never supposed to feel pain. We're never supposed to have a challenge. And so my response was, well, no, this is the very thing that is meant to teach these people about who they really are, about what strength they have within them. And so it's only in our human experience that we're really trying to polarize that experience. But the truth is that if darkness exists, then light exists within it. We always have those opposite complementary components. And so if we are feeling the fear, or if we are feeling all of this struggle, that means that we have some sort of sense of an opposite that is more desirable that we would prefer to experience. That means we know it's there somewhere deep down. We trust that it's there. And so that difference really, in my opinion, between this fear and this hope is that fear is typically externalized. It's what we're taking in from the external world, right? And usually it's because of the things we've witnessed and absorbed within our environment. We've learned what's scary, what's risky, what to avoid. Again, human survival wiring. But hope comes from within. Hope comes from this deeper knowing that there is a power that exists within us that is so great that we can overcome all things. In fact, if it's being given to you, it's because you can handle it. Now, I got that message very clearly after I was widowed at 29. And I remember thinking, well, that's wonderful, but I don't want to deal with this, right? Like it was like, I might be able to be strong enough, like, thanks a lot, but I don't want this. And so of course there's this experiencing it and really being honest with ourselves about how we feel. Don't reject what you feel. And once you feel the feelings, know that you have to be the one to rise for yourself. Nobody else can fix what's ailing you. You are the one who has this power within you to decipher the meaning, decipher the messages, to get on your path and really live within that hope, live within that conviction. And it is in that faith and in taking that next step and walking forward that we do truly discover a life that's more miraculous than we could have ever predicted. But it's only through pulling off of that known, pulling off of that fear that we can get there.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. I mean, I can't remember who said it, but there was a saying that said, it's not our darkness that scares us, it's our light.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we know that there's light in there, and we're afraid to face that, and afraid to unpack it because it's in there.
Oh my God, Kim, I had so many moments of truly recognizing and feeling how big my purpose is, how big I was meant to impact others. And when I realized what was holding me back, it was me. It was this feeling of, I don't deserve this happiness. I don't deserve this bigness. Who am I? Because we've been taught many, many times in our life, like, who do you think you are? And that's a good question. Who do you think you are? Because only you get to decide that. But I'm with you. Like, we fear our bigness. And in part, it's because that familiar, even when we're in the suffering of the familiar, it's predictable. And so evolutionarily wired with that ego mind of keeping us safe, it knows what to expect. And therefore the assumption is that it's keeping us safe, when many of us know it's not keeping us safe at all. We are in a chronic state of unraveling emotionally, mentally, physically. We're not safe at all in that place. But we get triggered by that fear when that bigness speaks to us and it calls us and we don't know what it is. Of course, you don't know what it is. You've never experienced it before. It's not in that beautiful catalog of your brain yet because you haven't done it. And so the assumption, from this ego mind is that it must be dangerous. I can't predict, I can't promise you I'm going to keep you safe, so don't go there. And so there's layers. It's the unworthiness, it's the fear, it's all of those things that get in the way that we have to kind of decide to face ourselves, to kind of evoke that courage. You know what's interesting when I hear this, when I say courage, everyone thinks it's this great thing. Courage does not feel good. I'm here to tell all of you, courage does not feel good. It's terrifying. It means feeling that fear and doing it anyway. And what you will eventually, through the practice and that conviction and commitment, you'll eventually become confident enough in the path that you're walking, even when you don't know, that fear isn't as dominant. But in courage, there is still fear. It's just you're making a choice within yourself to move in a certain direction.
Amazing. Laura, I, as you know, could always chat to you all day. And I can't believe we've run out of time because it feels like we've only been chatting. So for those listening and watching, apologies that we have run out of time. But we'll share with you in the show notes as well how you can connect with Laura and find out more about how Laura can help you to reconnect with your soul's purpose. Laura, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much. I look forward to our next conversation.
Kim, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. I'm so blessed. I'm blessed by our connection and this opportunity to share.
Me too. And to everybody listening and watching, thank you so very much for sharing this moment with us. I hope you found it as interesting, inspiring, and insightful as I have. And until next time, please do take care.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions, master the art of listening with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacqueline.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations.
Get ready for Talking Heads, the show where expert insights meet world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Brought to you by USA Global TV and Radio. Meet our distinguished presenters. From the great state of Texas, longevity expert, award-winning author, publisher, and distinguished Toastmaster, Red O'Loughlin. From London, England, soul heart awakener, novelist, vocal coach, and artist, Dr. Madeline Chan. Also from England, the Harley Street stress expert, therapist, ambassador for peace, and speaker, Carolyn Heward. And from Australia, ICF PCC credentialed coach, entrepreneur, and leadership coach, Mariska Dupria. Experience their expertise, connect with their wisdom, and transform your perspective. Watch Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. This video and its contents are the property of USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. Visit usaglobaltv.com for more details.
Have you ever felt unheard? Like your words float into a void, leaving you invisible and disconnected? How about feeling judged, when assumptions overshadow your truth, leaving you misunderstood and defensive? And then there's that moment when someone offers solutions you never asked for, dismissing your feelings and leaving you more frustrated than before. It doesn't have to be this way. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, understands. She's here to help you reclaim your voice, build stronger connections, and create meaningful conversations that inspire understanding and mutual respect. Through her groundbreaking books, online and in-person courses, and interactive workshops, you'll learn how to navigate life's most challenging interactions. Discover the power of elevated listening and transform how you communicate. Master setting boundaries and asking permission to protect your peace. Learn to recognize and release judgment, fostering empathy and true connection. Dr. Kerbeck also offers personalized coaching, one-on-one or group sessions designed to fit your unique needs. Whether in person or virtually on StreamYard, her guidance will empower you to thrive. You don't have to struggle alone. The path to deeper connections and better relationships start here. Visit drjacqueline.com or usaglobaltv.com. Join a global community of empowered listeners and transform your life, one meaningful conversation at a time. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor. Start your journey today.